Hello, and welcome to this week's this afternoon session, rather. And we're going to have a very interesting session today. As many of you must be waiting for, this session, because I know that you showed some of the interests that if we can do something around parenting and how to deal with our little ones at home, but also if there is any kind of training or somebody who we can talk to in mostly worrying times. So, as we see it, parenting is the most important job we will ever do, and being so sleep deprived makes it much more harder for many of us. And many of us have got this lived experiences of sleepless nights and the impact of disrupted sleep. So tired parents, of course, I have gone through that phase as well. Tired parents like me and you are desperate to get their kids to sleep. And however, it is easier said than done. And today, we are going to explore this emerging field of sleep consulting with Sonal Dokia, who is a practitioner sleep consultant, and she's here with us today in the studio. Welcome, Sonal.
Hello, welcome. Hi, everybody.
Hello. How are you?
Thanks for welcoming me, Indrani. Thank you so much for welcoming me to this session.
But thanks for giving us the time as well. It's kind of a relatively new field, and we want to explore it. And of course, there are some requests that has come up as well. So how are you today? How was your day today?
Great, thank you. The weather's been beautiful, so enjoying the sunshine. How about yourself?
Yes, I've been mostly playing around. So I did my football sessions with my daughter, playing in the garden in the morning, and as it is on Saturday, and they're going back to the for the summer school session next week. So a little bit of a rest possibly that time, but full on summer at the moment.
Our Saturdays are similar. We have like family Saturdays, and it's like the girls go to their dance classes in the morning. It's a very active, busy day.
That's right. Yeah, Saturdays are very hard to find a time, isn't it? Yeah. So, would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself? So, what you do and when you started and all of that. So, really a little story around.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to. Thank you. So, my name is Sonal Dokia. I'm a newly certified child sleep consultant. I work with parents of children who are sort of age 0 to 6 who are struggling with sleep issues. So, to tell you a little bit about myself, my business, I'm the owner of a business called Silver Lining Sleep Consulting. You can find me on Instagram and on my Facebook page. So please do look me up, and I'll mention that again at the end. So I am also a parent. I'm a parent of 3 young children. I have 3 girls, age 6, 5, and 1.5 now. And I have had various points of challenge in terms of their sleep through the years. But by far, the hardest one has been my youngest one, who's 17 months old now. She was born in February, just before we went into our first lockdown in March. So it's been quite an intense and challenging year, and she's had a hard time with her sleep. She really has. And she was at the point where, when they're little, you kind of cuddle them to sleep, you walk with them to sleep, you do things to help them and assist them to get to sleep. And it's quite nice because they're little and you want to be able to do all that with them. And then sometimes there comes a point where what you're doing isn't working anymore, and we got to that sort of stage where even doing the things that she liked us to do wasn't helping her to go to sleep. And she could be up for a couple of hours at a time in the middle of the night, several times a night. And me and my partner were absolutely exhausted. We'd both take it in turns to go to her. And she would literally be screaming whether you tried to help her or whether you put her in a cot. And we just didn't know what to do. It woke up the entire family. We have 2 other little girls, who were at school, and they struggled with their sleep. And we were all really shattered as a whole family, really tired. So I started looking into sleep training because somebody mentioned it to me. And I thought, wow, okay, let me look into this, because I'm the sort of person that's done a lot of reading. I'll read about things. I'll go on the internet. I'll look for advice and tips. And sometimes those things stick for a moment and they might help for, for a week or for a moment. And then sometimes it doesn't last. And it was kind of just like trial and error, but not really knowing what I needed to be doing with her. I tried everything I tried with my other two children, and I was not getting anywhere. The problem was actually getting worse as she got older. You know, we sometimes expect children to grow out of things, but it can go the other way. It can really go the other way. So I found myself in that situation with my little one, Serenity, and it was a bit of a struggle. And I decided, right, okay, we've got to do something about it, because you know we're getting to the point where we're pretty broken now. Me and my partner are absolutely shattered, and it has a real impact on your family. It's not just that you haven't slept, but the level of energy you have the next day, you know, to be able to go out and do things as a family, do things with your children, you know, your patience, you know, your ability to regulate your emotions. It's all very much impacted by how much sleep you get. And when you don't have it, and you don't have it consistently, and you're sleep deprived, the impact of that is very real. It tests your relationships, you know, and it does affect you. And I think when you're there, you sometimes don't realize how much of an impact it's having until it's fixed, until the problem's fixed a little bit.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, so for myself, I found that we were struggling, and despite both of us, you know, having good educations and trying to read every book we could, we just couldn't get to solve the problem. So I looked and I thought, right, if I'm going to get help, I'm going to try and find the best person to help me. So I looked at who the best sleep consultants were. There's not that much awareness around sleep consultancy, so I do want people to become aware of what we do. We're really friendly people. You know, we usually work by ourselves with families to help you to understand the issues that are happening around your child's sleep. It's a really fully comprehensive assessment that we do with the child, and I'll go into that in a bit more detail in a little while. But basically, I found out about the best way to qualify. I found an international training provider who is a leader in their field. I qualified recently with 100% on my paper for my examination. So
Wow.
I'm very passionate about what I'm doing. I find it easy to learn because I'm so into it. I really enjoy what I'm learning, and I can't wait to be making a difference to people's lives. I'm working with a few families at the moment, and it's really rewarding work, seeing the changes. The methods I use are very gentle. They're responsive, so you're never leaving your child alone to cry out. You know, and they are very effective methods. You know, these methods have changed along with scientific evidence over years. So I only work with families who want to work on a sort of a very sort of simple, basic, gentle approach, but it is effective. And sometimes if you're struggling as a family, it's very difficult to pinpoint where the issues are. So that's where someone like myself can come in and help you, because I've got the know-how, the knowledge, and I can be objective, and I can help you, give you the empowerment, the confidence that you need to be able to see that through, and then be there for you every step of the way till you get to your goal, you know. So I did this with my daughter. I was training as a sleep consultant. At the same time, I was sleep training my little girl. And there's been an immense change in her. She goes to sleep now by herself. We can give her a bedtime, really good bedtime routine. We'll sit with her and read her stories, as we do with our older girls as well. And then when we go to tuck her in and say goodnight and give her a kiss, we can actually leave the room without her crying or getting upset. And she falls asleep within about 10 to 20 minutes by herself. And she sleeps through the night, and she wakes up in the morning and she's bright and she's got the energy, you know, we all have. And she's a completely different person. She's coming on developmentally as well, in leaps now that she's getting the rest that she's not been getting for so long. So it's really, really amazing to see, which gives me even more sort of passion for what I do, because I see it working. I've worked with it on my own child. I'm working with other families where I see it's making a difference. You know, I really want to be able to take that into the community and, you know, allow people to know that I'm there, and these services do exist. And, you know, you don't have to struggle. You don't have to struggle on your own, and just hope it will work itself out. And, you know, I'll go through the sort of what I do a little bit more in detail. But my story with my little one was really, you know, it was tough because she was born during the pandemic. And we didn't have any help, you know, our parents were shielding, as a lot of families were, and we didn't know what to expect with COVID. It was very new back then. And so me and my partner and our little family were our little bubble, just us. So my partner, he works in the NHS, he works in a hospital, so he was going into work every single day. I was at home with my baby, and my 2 girls were homeschooling, so it was a very, very challenging time. But you know, we've come out the other end of, well, coming out the other end of that now.
Yes. Yeah.
We are, and my little girls have been able to have hugs with their grandparents, you know, after I think about I think 14 months. 14 months it's been since they had hugs. Look, there's a picture of my that's my mom. You can see how excited she is being able to cuddle her granddaughters after such a long time.
I know,
So
and
that makes me happy.
It's kind of that difficult period that possibly grandmoms and granddad has gone through, isn't it? Like, and also the kids. I think I can see that in my own child as well, and in every child actually who have been in close contact with other families, or even with relatives who have been coming to the house. And I think that area was suddenly gone. And what you're saying there is very interesting, because if I am, if I view back my days with my little one, I went through different kinds of different stages of this sleep deprivation. So,
Yes.
and I think that the most challenging part is when you're staying awake all night, and then in the morning you're going to do your job and you have to deliver there. So you got that thing.
Absolutely.
However, you can't take that on a little one, because they have got no idea. And at the same time, we didn't get trained, as part of, okay, you're going to do the parenting from now, therefore you need to have a course of parenting. We don't do it that way, isn't it? And it's mostly the support, the social support, the support around families that's available, which was suddenly off during this time as well.
That's it. People were just completely, if you had support before, that was taken away from you. And you did have to kind of find your way. Like every day I took it one day at a time, because it was tough. It was really tough. So it was just one day at a time, because we didn't know how long it was going to carry on for. We didn't know how long the schools were going to be closed for. So it was really tough. But yeah, I used to go out for a walk every day in the evening after my partner got home, just to get that little bit of fresh air, and to be able to, just for your own wellness.
Yes.
To keep going. But there are different phases, absolutely. I mean, like when a baby's born, as a parent, you expect there to be sleepless nights. It's normal, obviously, because they're small. They wake up every couple of hours to feed and sleep. It's absolutely fine, and you can expect that for a certain amount of time. But then when your children's between like 4 to 6 months, they usually are ready to be able to go to sleep through the night, if they're getting enough sustenance and nutrition through the day. They may still wake up to feed in the night a couple of times, but usually they go through longer periods of being able to sleep through. But for sometimes children don't, even if there's no medical reason, and they're growing healthily, they may still continue to wake up. It could be for comfort. It could be because there's underlying overtiredness there. Or maybe they're just used to the parent doing something for them to help them fall asleep. This is what we call a sleep crutch. So, for example, there's lots of different ways parents might help their child to go to sleep. They might feed them and they fall sleepy, and then they put them in the cot, or maybe they walk around rocking them to go to sleep. Or they pat and shush and sit right next to them to go to sleep. So the child gets used to that, and that's what they expect. So when we go through our sleep cycles, and we go through sort of, we go into a nice deep sleep when we first go to sleep, and then we come into light sleep. As adults, as grown-ups and older children, we just go straight back to sleep again. We toss and turn, and then we go back into another sleep cycle. We're aware that we might be awake for a moment, but then, we're back into our sleep, and then we go through that through the night. The little ones, when they're that little, they maybe sleep for... a normal typical sleep cycle is about 30, I'd say probably about 30 to 45 minutes is one sleep cycle for them. When they get to about 30 minutes in, they're coming out of deep sleep. But instead of then going straight into sleep again, they come to the top of their light sleep cycle phase, and they're just awake. They're just awake, and they don't know what to do to go back to sleep again. So, we get that. I see that quite a bit, where children don't know how to sleep longer than 30 to 60 minutes. you know, and they keep waking up through the night as well, because if they're used to the parent doing something to help them fall asleep, when they wake up in the night and they realize, oh, mommy and daddy aren't holding me, they're not rocking me, they feel the change in that sensation, and they know that they're looking for that to help them to go back to sleep. So sometimes these problems can go on longer because the child is wanting a certain way and only knows that way, maybe, you know, doesn't know any other way of going to sleep yet. And sleep is a learned skill. It is a skill that you can learn and you can unlearn. So to be able to teach your child that, you know, we need to look at the sort of the patterns and behaviors that are there. We need to look at the child's behavior, the child's temperament, their age, the family, the circumstances, how long the issue's been going on for. So if I was to take on a client, I would do a full assessment. The parents would fill in a full assessment for their child. I'd then look into that and look at the details of that before I do a one-to-one face-to-face online consultation with the parents, where we go into depth. So I'd be looking at literally the entire routine, along with their personality and temperament, to put together a completely bespoke, tailor-made sleep solution for that family. And I think this is why it's difficult for families. You know, every child is different. You can't just go on the internet and Google something and go, right, okay, because if it was that simple, the answer would be on the internet and we wouldn't be talking about it. We wouldn't be struggling. But it's not that simple. Every child is unique. Every person is unique. And so the solution has to then be unique to that individual and that family. So that's what I do. You know, I help the families in terms of looking at their family as a whole and their child, look at the sleep issues that are coming up for them. And it might range from, some of the sleep issues are, like I mentioned, the child might not sleep more than 30 to 60 minutes at a time. Maybe they wake up several times in the night and they come into the parents' room, or they cry out if they're still in their cot. But we get older children as well that just keep coming into the parents' room in the middle of the night because they wake up, they just walk out of their bed and straight into want to go to mommy and daddy. And that obviously disturbs the parents' sleep, but also the child's sleep and the quality of rest that they are getting. So, and there's as many different variations. You get children that wake up, they're called early rising, they're up before 6 o'clock in the morning. You know, we may have all had these times where the children are up between 5 or 6 in the morning, and it's exhausting for parents because we are so tired at that time. And it's hard, but they wake up early, and there's all these different things that we can change, we can tweak, and we can make amendments to their schedule. If the parents are prepared to work with me, we can look at the best way to replenish the little one's sleep so they're sleeping better, they're sleeping for longer, and therefore the whole family then get the rest that they need.
I think that's very, very interesting points that you said there, you know, as you're saying, like, we all go to, and I was part of that as well. You know, you go into Google and you say, well, how can I soothe my child? But I think it's kind of a skill that parents need to learn. And of course, they can't do this on their own because sometimes, I don't know, like, you know, that's a question from my side as well to you, is that, do you think that food also plays a role in sleep of a child? Like you said, the overall environment is important, but also you mentioned a couple of times about the nutrition and how much they have got.
Yeah, I suppose what I meant by nutrition is that, are they getting enough calories in the day? Are they getting enough nutrition in the day so they're not waking up out of hunger? Because a lot of parents will worry or might continue to feed a child to sleep in the night because they don't know. They don't know if they're waking up because they're hungry or whether it's because they want comfort. So it's making sure that the parents are comfortable that the child is getting a good nutrition through the day. They are eating well and are healthy and gaining weight. If they've had trouble sleeping, have they been to the GP to rule out any medical issues? You know, at the moment, I think they're saying it's about 1 in 4 children struggle with behavioural sleep issues. Behavioural sleep issues, and that's what I can help with.
Yeah.
When it's behavioural, obviously, if there's a medical issue, you'd need to speak to your GP, and we'd always want to rule that out as a matter of course first. But yeah, on the whole, when it's behavioural, I can help the parents, coach them and give them the knowledge that they need to get through that. And you can see results really quickly. You can get results within 2 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks. You'll be seeing a massive difference.
And at what point would you suggest? So, say for example, a parent, how would they know that this is the time actually we need to go to a sleep consultant?
Okay. I guess it's when they are ready to. Some people are happy to just struggle and keep going and keep going and keep going. But if you know that your child is healthy and should be able to sleep through the night and they're still not, if you've tried things and they're not working, if you're ready to change things and you're ready to take that next step and speak to somebody who's knowledgeable like myself, that's when you're ready, because I can offer you something, but you can only take it if you're ready. And with children, it's like, so basically for sleep consulting, children aren't ready to sleep train until they're at least 18 weeks old, at least. So we're looking at 4.5 months and older. If they're younger than 18 weeks, then we do what's called like sleep shaping. So that's to help them get really good habits, good bedtime routines, get them in a place where they're learning to practice basically being in their own sleep space, like in their cot by themselves for a few minutes at a time. So basically setting up the environment for them to be good sleepers in the future. But when you get to a point where, you've been struggling for a while, say you're needing to go back to work, or you just know that you can't do it anymore, your child is really tired and exhausted the next day, it's affecting their behavior as well. You can get in touch at any point. People can come preventatively as well. You can come when your child maybe doesn't even have that many sleep issues, but they're young and you want to make sure that they're going to be a good sleeper. You can get the advice, you can get that right from the beginning. But if you have sleep issues at any age, up until the age of 6 years old, it's never too late to get somebody involved to help you with that.
Fantastic. No, that's really useful. And you have got this, of course, I mean, the point where you were saying that, you became interested in sleep consulting, having a lived experience of that, and how tiring was that for you? How did you manage? How did you balance that kind of challenge? Of course, you had a little one, you had two daughters to manage, who is going to school at the moment. Yeah.
So, sorry, do you mean back at the pandemic time, or do you mean now?
Yeah, in the pandemic time. Yes, when you actually started thinking about, doing sleep consulting. So it must have taken a lot during that time.
Yeah, I mean, I started thinking about sleep consulting more when my younger one was getting to about a year old. So the children were back at school then. The children were back at school, and we had a bit of a reprieve where you could breathe, so the older girls were at school. And I think the pandemic makes you think about things very carefully. It makes you evaluate your life. It makes you think about what's important to you. It certainly did for me. It made me think about my purpose here, what I want to do with my life for the next 10, 20 years, or, do I want to carry on the job I'm doing, or do I want to do something that gives something more back to people? I wanted to make sure that I made choices that reflected those reflections, really, thinking about sorry, I think I've lost Indrani.
No, that's fine.
Oh, are you there? Okay.
Yes,
so sorry there. So I guess where was I?
Yeah, it's a sleep consulting thing, like when you are talking about the families and how you basically cope during that time.
I have to be honest with you, it was literally one day at a time. It was survival mode, and I think most people would say that was the case for them if they had young children and didn't have any family support. Like, my partner is an incredible man, and he's fantastic. He's really supportive with my family, but he also goes to work, so he won't be home for 10 hours of the day. So a lot of the time, there are mothers at home who, I'm not saying just mothers, sometimes it's fathers that are at home too, who are sleep deprived because their child's not sleeping great. They are also having to do the normal day-to-day things with the family, because that doesn't stop. You've still got to feed your children. You've got to cook for them. You've got to bath them. You've got to take them out for fresh air. You've got to do those things. And when you were homeschooling, obviously you had to do that as well. So that doesn't stop. I guess it's how you cope with it. And for me, I had to take it as a day at a time. And I had to make sure that at the end of every day, I had at least a good 20, 30 minutes to go out for fresh air when the kids were asleep and my partner was at home, so that I could, feel what I needed to feel and have that time away from the children. Because when you're in front of the children, you always have to be strong, don't you?
That's right. Yes. Yeah. You have to have your own sort of coping mechanisms in place. And also you're kind of trying to learn from other parents. So what we have been doing as well, to kind of go to parenting groups and kind of trying to talk to people who are having similar issues. And the point is that, of course, I mean, because my little one, she used to go to nursery when she was 3 months, since she was 3 months. Yeah. And then of course we had to think about, and when they are mixing with the external environment, I believe that that brings in a little element of stress within the kids as well, and that's difficult as well as a parent to kind of see. But what do you think is the impact that poor sleep can also have on a child's emotions,
So
that parents
sleep,
can identify?
yeah. Well, sleep is so important. It's a pivotal part of a foundation of good health.
Hmm.
It's one of the pillars of good health and well-being. So sleep, if you're not sleeping well, it's going to impair your ability to regulate your emotions. It's going to definitely have an effect on your ability to focus. Good sleep leads to good immunity as well. It boosts your immunity if you're sleeping as much as you're supposed to be sleeping. It also is like a brain detox when you sleep. It gets rid of all the chemicals that are not needed in your brain. It's great for memory consolidation as well in adults. For children, it's huge for their developmental phase in so many different ways, physically, emotionally. They need sleep because also growth hormones are secreted when they're sleeping. So they need that sound sleep to develop into the best children, the best that they can be, to fulfill their potential. Because you see children who struggle at school when they're a little older because in the early years, they haven't had this bare minimum sleep that they needed. There's children who are getting less than 10 hours sleep at the age of two and a half they are behind when it comes to schools. And there are studies to show that.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Oh, no problem. I hope that answered your question.
Yeah. So that's what happens, isn't it? Digital disruption.
Yes. It's part
Anyway,
of
so yeah, so during this time, of course, I mean, when we are, say, for example, in the pandemic time, particularly, I would say that there have been parents who have been coming up talking about behavioral issues and all of that. Again, when they are really young, possibly sleep deprivation is something that can be linked to that behavioral problem that you mentioned just now, which is kind of really good to know, because in that way we need to kind of look at what we are providing to the child, and if there is something more that we can actually do to meet their needs. So we've got a question here as well that has come up. So what does a good sleep pattern look like for, say, 4 months, 2 years, 2 to 4 years, 4 to 6 years? Do they change, or do they remain the same
yes.
round about?
Yeah, it does change, and this is why it's never a one solution. What happens is, as your child grows bigger, the windows, the awake windows of how long they can stay awake, get bigger and bigger. So when you've got a 4-month-old, they might only be able to stay awake for an hour and a half before they need to have a nap. Okay, so they might then have a nap, maybe 30 minutes, an hour, and then they're up. They can be awake for another hour and a half before they need another nap. So when they're that small, they might sleep 4 or 5 hours in the day. When they get a bit bigger, their sleep windows increase. So say, for example, I can only give you my example of my 17-month-old now. She needs roughly 2.5 hours of daytime sleep. Okay, and that can be split over 2 naps or 1 nap. So, and then she needs a certain number of sleeping hours in the day, in the night as well. So she needs a total number of hours of sleep as well. That's conducive to the best sleep that she can get. So it changes. And when they get to sort of 4 to 6 years old, they don't need a nap anymore. You know, they normally drop their naps between sort of 3 to 4 years of age.
Right.
But then that can be replaced by quiet time. That can be replaced where the child has a little bit of time where they can spend it in calm, you know, no TV, no musical toys, but they get to maybe listen to an audiobook or with the curtains drawn a little bit. So they get time to switch off as well.
Yeah.
Because life is so busy and children need downtime as much as we do.
Absolutely,
So,
yes. And I think that's important to know. And so we have got another question that has come up here: is can sleep deprivation have long-term health impact?
I haven't got the studies to hand, but I know that if the sleep deprivation continues for children, it can hold them back at school a little bit. Their statistics are that the level of achievement that they have in primary school is a little bit behind their peers. If they've had less than, say, 10 hours sleep by the age they're 2.5, even if they catch that up by the age of 3.5, they still have a little bit of making up to do. So there are studies to show that it can have effects. I don't know about long-term into adulthood. I don't know that for sure. I'd have to look that up, but it does have an impact on your health. I mean, I've had 3 children as an adult in the last, so my oldest is 6.5. So in 6.5 years, I've probably had over 3 years of sleep deprivation. It ages you. You know, it exhausts you.
Yes.
It really does impact your health. It does. And we just accept it. We accept it as part of being a parent. And what I'm trying to say is that you don't have to. You don't have to struggle. You don't have to be sleep deprived. There is a solution. And the solutions can be tailor-made to your child and your family, and they are effective and gentle.
Yeah. Yeah. And do you think that there's a kind of cultural element when it comes to sleep consulting, or so say for example, at some point you mentioned towards the beginning that sometimes you can just carry on as normal, and you think, well, this is actually parenting. I mean, if you are not getting stressed out, possibly you're not doing the right kind of parenting. And these are kind of discussions. Yeah.
That's a good point actually that you make there, because I think sometimes moms, we give ourselves, we decide to take on as much as we can, and we don't speak up, and we feel guilty to ask for help, and we carry on and we carry on and we carry on because we're almost expected to. We're almost expected to just do that because as mothers, your life changes once you've had children. Your life does change. But we have a lot of career women. We have a lot of women who want to have their family and have that work balance where they have a good job or a career. And absolutely, it's possible to do both. But isn't it easier when you sleep well? Isn't it easier when your whole family sleeps well? And I just think that's where people have to value what that means to them, what having that sleep would mean to their value, what would that enhance in their lives. For example, if you have a child now who wakes up, when you put them to sleep, they wake up every hour, 2 hours. So you don't know when they're going to wake up. You're not very likely to be able to go out in the evening, are you? No. You're not very likely to go to that gym class that you might want to go to. That's 5 minutes away from you. Because you don't know if they wake up, whether your partner will be able to get them to sleep, or, if they need something from you. So you don't have a life outside of your family sometimes, because you can get so involved in your family life that there isn't a space for you to be you. And if you have children, you want to be in a place, I always wanted to be in a place where when I'm with my children, I'm giving them the best of me. They've got the best of me when I'm with them. But then also when they get to sleep, mommy and daddy have a life too. We want to be able to dance. We want to be able to go swimming or do a class. And, it just makes life so much easier when you have that, okay, if my child goes to sleep, they're not very likely to wake up now, unless they're ill. And there are times when they're teething or things happen. And you expect for a couple of days there might be a bit of disruption. But on the whole, if you can rely on the fact that, when you put your child down to sleep and they do sleep and they sleep through the night, you have one less thing to worry about. You can take that art class you want to take. You can actually sit back and enjoy time with your partner. Just, because relationships, everything can suffer when you're completely sleep deprived. So I think that's what I'm asking people to think about when they think of sleep consulting. What difference would it make in your lives if your child was sleeping better, if you were sleeping better? What would it give you back?
And it's a very different, like very, very new field, isn't it? So not many people know about it. I mean, if you ask me, I wasn't aware of it up until the point I actually came across you, that you have been doing this. And I'm saying, wow, how amazing, when I was going through that stage, I would have definitely benefited from actually getting some guidance, because I didn't know what I'm doing, like what I was doing, and whether I was doing it right. Because, of course, there is also a tendency, particularly this is very much of a mother's guilt kind of thing, that if they wake up, you tend to think that, well, maybe I've done something that's not actually giving them, making them, or providing them that kind of comfort, or they're not getting what they are expecting, and therefore it's my problem. And it's actually not my problem, because you can learn, unlearn things at different stages of your life. And I think parenting is one of that kind of job, I would say. Yeah, it's a job. And if we think that we all know it, we're not skilled parents in that way. However, the experience teaches us. And I think what you're saying there is that it's very important to see, because in the US, there is lots going on around sleep consulting, and it kind of a regular sort of thing that happens when you go for maternal checks and all of that, and then of course you have been given the options that you want to go for sleep consultations, which doesn't happen here. So therefore, I wasn't aware of it, and I thought, well, if you're doing it, you definitely need to reach out to people and kind of, and I'm sure that there are many in here in Leicester who will really benefit from doing these kind of consultations. And would you like to say a little bit about how the families, like how you can help the families, like what is the kind of help they can get from you?
Okay, sure. You're absolutely right about the level of awareness. I don't think it's a particularly new field. I just think there's not that as much awareness around it as there are in like the United States or Canada, where it's very normal for people to ask for help, just like it's very normal for them to have a psychiatrist, or a sleep consultant. In this country, I think we don't ask for help as much. And I don't know where that comes from. Maybe it's a little bit of being British, a little bit of, just we soldier on anyway in our community and do our best that we can. But certainly, if there are people out there with the knowledge and the know-how and want to help and can help, it's like anything, you can reach out to them. You can reach out and get that help. What I do basically, so if I had an inquiry from a family, we'd have a 15-minute chat on the phone probably to begin with, to start to understand what the key issues are that the family are having with the child and their sleep, and have a look at what the goals are, where the parents want to get to. So where they are now and where they would like to be when we finish sleep training. Then I would ask the parents to fill in a comprehensive initial assessment, which goes through quite a few questions about the child, so that I can understand. I can look at their age. It helps me to understand their behaviors that are in place at the moment, all the sleep challenges that are there, their temperament of the baby or toddler even. And then we'd book in and have a full consultation. So at that point, I would have maybe an hour and a half with the family, depending on the kind of package that they wanted and the level of support that they want. And we would have a online, face-to-face, one-on-one consultation, which will be completely confidential. Ideally, you'd want to have both parents there if they could be present, because I think it makes a big difference when both parents are, they show solidarity and they want to work on the problem together and support each other. But I'm happy to work with single parents and families where maybe, you have one parent who's on shifts or works with police officer or NHS, and they can't necessarily be there. But even if one parent is there, then they can relay that information on to their partner, so that they are both on the same page, because it's really important that they are both consistent when we start sleep training and how they both react to the child, because you don't want to For children, you want it to keep it very clear. You want it to be very black and white about what you're doing. You don't want to confuse them. They're little. You want to be able to show them, right, this is what we're doing now, and then show them that mummy and daddy do exactly the same thing. Or it could be nana or nanny if they stay over. You know, it's just like whoever the parent or guardian is, this is what we're doing. And they know that it's no different if the grown-up changes. It's, you know, the same consistent approach. So at that point, during the consultation, I would be, well, before we'd have that face-to-face consultation, I'd be creating a very unique sleep plan. I'd be looking at all the detail around that family. I'd be thinking about all the resources that I could provide them. And I'd look at what would really make a difference for them. And then when we have the consultation, I'd talk them through that and sort of get them on board with what they're happy to do and what they're not happy to do, because it is a very much, we work together. We're working together to make sure that the parents are comfortable, they're happy with what we're doing, and it works for them and their child. Because I'm not doing anything to the child. What I'm doing is I'm going to be coaching the parents. I'm empowering the parents and giving them the confidence and that they need to go, right, okay, right, I didn't know what I was doing, but okay, with your help, I think I can do this. And giving them that confidence, you know, that they can do it. And I would then support them with follow-up calls every couple of days. So after the initial consultation, just to check in with them, see how they're getting on. And once they start implementing the sleep plan, see how they're getting on. If there's anything that we need to tweak, anything we need to change, any questions that come up, anything that comes up that we weren't expecting, we can address them as we go along. And it's for me to monitor and keep the parents on track and make sure that we can get the results that we want to get to. And so towards the end of maybe a 2-week period, you'd probably be either at a point where your child is doing what you want them to do in terms of sleeping, or you're going to be sort of 90% of the way there, where the parents then know they've got all the steps, they know exactly what to do for the next few days to get them exactly where they want them to be.
That's great to know.
That's what I provide, a completely bespoke service.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. I mean, that's really great to know that, you know, there is help out, and of course I'm sure that parents will be reaching out, and you have got an email that we are sharing as well, you know, so if in case anyone wants to email, but also you have got the Facebook and Instagram handles that's being shared here as well. So and thank you very much so for giving up your time, and I'm sure that you must have been a busy Saturday, and thanks for joining, and thanks to our audience as well for listening to us. And we will be you know, providing and sending out the links to the emails that we have, so if anybody gets in touch, they will be able to see your email address there as well.
Wonderful, that's great. And I really appreciate you having me on here. It's been
fantastic.
Thank
you very much. You're doing a massive thing, you know, it's a massive thing, and as a mom, and I've gone through that stage, so I know that it's really you know, something people will look up for.
Yeah. It can be life-changing for some people. It has been for me, you know, seeing my daughter through it and coming out the other side. I can completely relate to people who are going to do it soon. And I can help them every step of the way. So if there are any inquiries, if there's any questions that we weren't able to answer today, please feel free to get in touch via my Facebook page or my Instagram account or my email address. The company that I have set up is called Silver Lining Sleep Consulting. I named it that because every cloud has a silver lining. So I wanted to say, let me be yours. So thank you so much for having me here. I really appreciated your time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. And it's an honor to host you here as well. So all the best for the future as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I hope we speak again soon. Take care.
Speak soon. Bye.
Bye.